Hi, I'm Andrew Holzman. I'm a therapist who works in Carmel, Indiana at Family Tree Counseling Associates. I can be reached at 317-457-8668 or aholzman2 at comcast.net. This video is called 7 Bad Reasons to Get Together in Your Relationship. And so, as a marriage and family therapist, one of the most difficult and confusing questions for people is, should I stay or should I leave my relationship? And by the time someone comes into counseling, they've ruminated, thought about this question for a great deal of time. It's a very painful choice one way or the other. Divorce is not easy and ruins families and is embarrassing and is difficult and is financially difficult as well. Staying together is painful, especially if the relationship is devoid of emotional connection or physical connection, or it in some way is destructive to your physical or emotional health. So that's my work as a therapist, is to figure out where that's coming from, where your relationship is coming from. Is it a relationship that is a positive relationship and your family history, your way of looking at things is sabotaging it in some way? Or is it a difficult and abusive and scary relationship that your family history is keeping you in because of codependency or traditions in your family or ways that people have acted in your family? Both of those can be true depending on how your family reacts. Is your family a family that runs from things, or do they stick it out? And depending on what the dysfunction is in the relationship or what the dysfunction is within yourself, that's going to make a big difference. It helps to delve into the way you look at relationships, trying to avoid the usual sabotage due to the past forces of your family of origin. A lot of them you might be unaware of. And if you can be aware of those forces, it goes a long way to keeping the relationship together, or at least to figuring out what relationship that you need, so when you pick a relationship, you're not creating the same problems over and over again. Well, I ask people, how would you describe the best time in your relationship? And if the relationship was one of warmth and connection, a great feeling about yourself or about the other person, then that's a good beginning of a relationship. For some people, their relationship starts out poorly. And examples, this is kind of the point of this video. Sometimes relationships start out for what you might think of as bad reasons, and reasons that don't have a lot of legs in keeping the relationship together. So that's why I'm trying to define this. There are 7 things that I'm going to talk about here. One of them is great sex and the denial of everything else that you care about. So sex is wonderful. Sex is a very connecting, and touch is a love language, and it feels great. But if that's the only thing that the couple has, and they have nothing and little in common otherwise, and they stay together because of the physical connection, that's going to wear off after a while. It's not many people, if anyone, who can maintain that type of physical intimacy and let it define everything else in the relationship, because then children will come along, or work situations will come along, or family situations will come along, or just personalities will clash. And the intensity of the sexual relationship is wonderful, but it is not enough to keep a relationship alive. So that's one reason not to get together with someone and start a relationship, if that's all there is. That's a great beginning, but it's not enough for all there is. Another bad reason to get together is, and I hear this one, it was time to get married. So you're of a certain age, you're in your late 30s or early 40s, and you start to feel the weight of time, and you start to feel the weight of family and of society, and you choose the commitment because that's the right thing to do, the very, quote unquote right thing to do. That might not be a great way to start a relationship, because that's not about the other person and about what you feel for that other person. It's just about something outside of yourself, something external that probably is not going to hold a lot of weight once you're in the nitty-gritty of a relationship. So age, religion, family, sometimes an unexpected pregnancy will accelerate this decision. 3, a long-distance relationship or an emotionally distant relationship. The couple, I've seen this as well, both people are working, they're working in different locales, different states, and they're coming together and connecting just on the occasional weekend, and then they have a grand old time connecting, of course, because it's just fun, but they're not getting to really know each other, and they're not getting into the nitty-gritty again of what is intimacy and what is a relationship. And that can be very destructive, because you don't get to really know each other, and you don't get to be real with each other. You're just having this, it's like an affair where you're just having great physical relationship, great sex, you're enjoying yourselves, you're doing fun things, but again, there's not the emotional connection that a person needs to have a relationship. And so they never find time to negotiate or deal with the really big relationship issues. Number 4, staying busy. Doing things together is, of course, important and necessary. Good restaurants, movies, fun, but they should not drown out the need for intimate conversations and the search for closeness and connection. So what I mean by that is, it's again like the same thing. The long distance relationship or the staying busy, if you're just doing things to keep yourself occupied and you're not really getting to know each other, that's a bad reason to be in a relationship. It's not good enough. It's great for a beginning relationship, but working out those issues, getting to know each other, being intimate on the emotional level has much better long-term better characteristics for a long-term relationship. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to talk about having a long-term relationship as opposed to just a short-term relationship. So if you're getting together and you're getting married or you're having children together, you want a certain level of emotional and physical connection. And the emotional is very important. And when you're staying busy and you're just doing things to have fun and you're not really spending time paying attention to resolving fights, resolving differences, then that's going to create problems in the long term. So number 5, unresolved violent arguing, excuse me for this, or any type of emotional and especially physical violence. Starting out with debilitating and unsafe issues, not a good sign for a long-term relationship. So that's kind of fairly obvious if you're in a relationship where it's so chaotic and so scary and so difficult that your safety and your peace of mind are at risk. That's not a good way to start out a relationship. Yet some people still do that because it's what they know from either their family of origin, or they're so comfortable with being a rescuer, or they're so comfortable trying to be on top or convince someone that kind of trumps the safety that you should have to take care of yourself emotionally and physically. Physical is obvious, if you're being pushed or punched or hurt in any way, but emotional is not quite as obvious. But if you're being insulted and called names that are inappropriate, and you're feeling shamed and feeling hurt, that's something to really look at. Do you want to have a long-term relationship with someone who doesn't respect you? Number 6, your partner is still emotionally or physically involved with someone else, and that should seem fairly obvious too. It isn't always. You have hope that the person will break it off, or you believe they're their protestations that that person's not important and that you're the important one for them. But a big amount of trust is going to be lost if you are with someone who doesn't pick you right off the bat. And we're not talking about that they may be dating someone for a few days or a week into your relationship before it's serious. But if you're serious with someone, then they should decide, and you should decide, that you're worthy of the safety and the commitment of having somebody in your life. If they have someone else in their life and they're just keeping a escape hatch for, that's going to really ruin some trust and ruin some safety for anybody in that relationship. That's not fair to have someone in your life who you don't trust, and that's going to build up bigger trust issues further on, and bigger safety issues, I believe. Number 7, rescuing an addict. Now, if there's someone who is addicted to something, drugs, alcohol, gambling, and well, that's going to be a very difficult relationship, because you're always going to be in the situation where you're superior in some ways, but you're always there for that person and not there for yourself. So addiction is painful, and certainly people can be in a relationship with someone who's an addict, but if you're getting together with somebody who's not committed to their own recovery emotionally and physically, and they're addicted to something, drugs, alcohol, porn, gambling, you name it, then you're going to always be in a relationship with three people: you, your partner, and the substance, and that's not very safe. What can you do is, you can't do much with that unless a person is really wanting to be healthy and healthy for themselves. You cannot fix them, you cannot rescue them. There's nothing you can really do, and it's very tiring and very exhausting and very scary to be in that relationship. In a relationship, you can help fix broken issues, but it's impossible to fix what's not there in the first place, and that's the point of this. If you are starting a relationship and you're starting out on 2 steps down like this, then it's going to be very hard. It's not impossible, but it's going to be very hard to be in a relationship with somebody who has these issues. They're with somebody else, or they're addicted to something, or they're abusive, or you're just starting a long-term relationship. You're starting from a place where you're not really knowing the person, and you're not really finding out enough to kind of have the connection that's going to be long-lasting. And so you have to kind of decide if this relationship, not only do you love the person, but if it's going to be good for you, if it's going to be something that's going to have what you need. If you're just looking for a relationship that's short-term, that's probably okay. But if you're looking for a really long-term relationship, then allow yourself the ability to have some truth and some honesty and some safety and some comfort in your relationship. Thank you for listening. My name is Andy Holzman, 317-457-8668. Appreciate you listening.